Liberal icon, 27-year Supreme Court veteran, and all-around badass Ruth Bader Ginsberg, aka the notorious RBG, passed away on Friday. But the grief and sadness of losing an American hero was immediately clouded by questions as to what will happen in terms of appointing her replacement. At just 46 days, Ginsberg's passing represents the second closest Supreme Court vacancy to a presidential election in all of American history. Following news of Ginsberg's death, President Trump called a press conference and immediately assured Americans that because our nation is in the midst of a contentious presidential election and in accordance with what he believed would have been Ginsberg's wishes, he would refrain from making a nomination until after voters decided on the next president. Just kidding. Actually, Trump tweeted that Republicans had been put in this position of power and importance to make decisions for the people who so proudly elected us, the most important of which has long been considered to be the selection of United States Supreme Court justices. We have this obligation without delay. Now, you might remember that in 2016, when Justice Antonin Scalia passed with more than 11 months remaining in President Barack Obama's term, then candidate Donald Trump very vocally opined that a replacement should never occur that close to an election. Republican Senate Majority Leader and Cecil the Turtle look-alike Mitch McConnell agreed, arguing that elections have consequences. And even though Barack Obama had won the most recent presidential election by a healthy margin in both the Electoral College and popular vote, the American people should get to weigh in. And President Obama, who'd already nominated 2 Supreme Court justices in 2 terms, should not be allowed to pack the court with liberal justices. I know this sounds as if reversing course would be too hypocritical even for 2 Hypocrisy Hall of Famers like Trump and McConnell. But to no one's surprise, McConnell, who never ever misses a chance to contradict his stated principles when they can advance the interests of his paymasters, vowed that the Senate would give Trump's nominee a speedy hearing. So the question becomes, can Republicans force a Trump nominee through a confirmation either before the election or during a lame duck session? And as we'll see, the before or after part has its own implications. For starters, thanks to a procedural change enacted by Republicans in 2017, it now takes only a simple majority to get a Supreme Court justice affirmed, instead of the traditional 60 votes. Since the vice president serves as the president of the Senate and can cast a tie-breaking vote, that means Republicans only need 50 of their 53 senators to get on board. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska issued an immediate statement pledging not to vote for any nominee this close to an election, meaning it would take just 3 more defections to squash a Trump replacement. Utah Senator and everyone's favorite Grandpa Kendall, Mitt Romney, voted to impeach President Trump, so it's a safe bet he'd be willing to deny him a dubious appointment to the High Court. Another key factor will be Maine Senator Susan Collins, who's in the midst of a tough re-election battle. Often considered a moderate because she's sometimes willing to hem and haw and feigning uncertainty in order to build tension and draw attention to herself before falling in line and voting like a good Republican, Collins' vote will be pivotal. Senator Collins is largely struggling with moderate Dems and independents who've previously supported her but feel she's given too much support to the president. If the vote took place before the election, Collins would have to weigh out whether preserving the Supreme Court nomination would please those voters more than it would anger her more conservative supporters. For Collins and other senators facing competitive re-election bids, such as Cory Gardner, Joni Ernst, and Lindsey Graham, who previously pledged that a nomination in the last year of Trump's term would wait until after the election, Trump and Republican donors could tie increased support for their campaigns to a promise of their vote. If a vote is taken after the election, lame duck Republican senators who lost may feel free to vote their conscience. Or they might be more open to selling their vote in exchange for things like well-compensated seats on boards of major corporations, lobbying gigs, and other lucrative work in the private sector. The average time from nomination to confirmation is 70 days based on appointments since 1975. The shortest was 45 days, ironically, for Ginsberg in 1993. Look, Trump is one of 4 presidents to ever have been elected without winning the popular vote. And of the four, he had the lowest share of the vote with only 46%. When you all consider that he's never once reached a 50% approval rating and has recently been as low as 35, it becomes undeniable that President Trump has less popular support than any American president, at least in modern history. So there's no argument to be made that he has a responsibility to make a third Supreme Court nomination in his very first term, just weeks before Americans have a chance to vote him out of office. But Trumpism isn't about what the American people want. It never has been. At its core, the Trump presidency is the logical endpoint for the Tea Party movement, which has always been about how minority rule and the ability to get everything you want, even when the majority of the country vehemently disagrees with you. Minority groups can't get what they want in a democracy without a whole lot of hypocrisy. So of course Republicans are going to attempt to fill this vacancy regardless of what happens on November 2nd. There's a 5-4 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Moving it to 6-3 with another relatively young judge could transform the American judiciary for at least a full generation. And when President Obama nominated a judge for the final vacancy that occurred during his presidency, he chose Merrick Garland, a right-of-center nominee right off of a list of judges the GOP had previously approved because he realized the country was ideologically divided and Garland was most representative not of his base, but the country in general. President Trump, who had nowhere near the popular mandate of the people of his predecessor, has vowed to put only far-right justices on the high court and recently added names like Ted Cruz and Mike Pompeo to his previous list of Birch Society-approved judges. And of course, we all know who Trump's favorite judge is. And if you don't think that can happen while the host of The Apprentice is president, you haven't been paying attention. Is there anything Democrats could do to delay or otherwise stop the nomination process? I'm afraid not. It turns out elections really do have consequences. And the depths of depravity Republicans will go to when it comes to being hypocrites is every bit as much of a bottomless pit as we imagined. I'm Mitch Maley, and that's it for this edition of Punk Rock Politics. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to get more raw and unfiltered political analysis, check out punkrockpolitics.com.